And I was trying to take care of myself for the first time in a long time. I was going for walks. I was drinking water again. I was like trying to reduce my caffeine intake, get my sleep patterns better. Just back to the basics, like really
Yeah.
just ground zero. And in that time, I started, looking at alternative methods of mental health support and supplements, right? I have never like fancied myself an athlete. And so a lot of the brands focused on before and after transformations or protein and creatine and like bulk gain or like I didn't get it, right? And I know you come from the CrossFit world, so you know the brands that I'm talking about, like
Yeah.
it felt still hustle culture, right?
Yeah.
Like in its own way, but just the hustle part. And I was like, I want the benefit of these adaptogens and ashwagandha and all this stuff that I had started to try to use and implement for my mental health accessible for people.
Welcome to the Moxie podcast. This whole month, we were talking about entrepreneurship and what it means to just kind of start and scale. And what I love about this question is that is different for each entrepreneur, especially in the term scale, because we all have different goals. All have different aspirations. So each interview has been so fun for me to hear everyone's story and what that means. So I am really excited because you guys get to meet. I feel like, well, first of all, I feel like we've known each other for a million years.
I know,
And
I think so
it's,
too.
I know, and it's only been like within the last year, but we have Roxanne on the call. And so welcome to the
Thank
Moxie
you.
podcast.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
excited.
Well, yeah, we've gotten to experience the world together a little bit
Yeah.
and traveling together. And
Yes.
I think when you add travel and adventure and just fun, you grow. Well, I think we could have been sitting in just a plain room and
Coffee
it would have
shop.
been best
Yeah.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. No, I told everybody that I told about this trip that you were one of my favorite parts. It just a spirit connection for me.
Yeah.
Just like you said, like I just felt like I'd known you forever.
Yeah. It was so good. Yeah. I ditto right back at you. So, we're not going to spend the whole podcast crushing on one another. So we will get into the
Although
topic.
I could.
We could be here for a solid hour doing that. But I want our listeners to just know who you are a bit. This is always a really broad question, but I ask who are you and what you're best known for. So I want you to answer that in any way
Yeah.
possible. But who are you, Roxanne? What are you best known for?
Well, I'll start with my most meaningful, which is I'm a mom of 3 young boys. I've been married for going on 13 years. And yeah, I live in Utah. I've been here for the last, we don't know, a long time, almost 20 years probably, which is just crazy. And yeah, my entire career has been based here in Utah, which I feel really fortunate because there are so many diverse entrepreneurs and businesses outside of here that I've been able to rub shoulders with and learn from. And it's made for a very diverse career in my own backyard, which is fun. So, but that's
Yeah.
who I am. I'm a mom first. I have a startup that we started a little over 2 years ago. And my background is digital advertising.
I don't know if I knew that was your
Yeah,
like official background.
that was my start. Yeah.
That's
So yeah, I don't want to derail the question, but
Yeah, no, that is so good. So, first I want to talk about Rookie really quick, but before we get to that, because I am now a proud user of Rookie and use it every
a
day.
rookie
And
stan.
yes, I am. I in my cart, I still need to buy all the apparel because I'm like, I want to take it back, all the apparel to
Oh,
Kenya and like
we'll
rep
hook you
it
up when you come.
on safaris. Like it's gonna be awesome. Besides that though, before you got there, like there's so many stories that like led you to Rookie, like other things that you just learned
Mhm.
from and grew from. So I want to talk about, yeah, the digital advertising and then just things, the journey of that. And we don't have to talk specifics of like who you worked for or anything like that,
Yeah.
but more so the lessons that you learned. Because when I got to sit with you and talk to you and just like hear the tenacity and resiliency and just perseverance you have as characteristics, I mean, you've gone through a lot. And I think that tells a lot when we look at this bootstrap quote unquote bootstrap to scale
Yeah.
thing. Like, um, it doesn't necessarily have to happen once, and you might bootstrap and then say, huh, okay, on to
Yeah.
the next one, you know? So,
Yes.
I mean, every journey is so different. So would love you to just kind of process that and talk with us that, in that, if you're okay
Yeah.
with that, of just your
Yeah.
journey a little bit.
Okay. So, like I mentioned, I started in digital advertising. So my first big girl job was in an advertising agency, and it was the time where the term boutique agencies was new, and our focus was digital. So we had a team of developers armed with everything, and we were able to take on a lot of development work that a lot of other agencies didn't want to do. And so some of my first clients were huge clients like Nike and Converse and Adidas and Chevrolet. We did stuff for them. And so that's how we got our start. They weren't our like retainer clients. We were passed on that work, but it allowed us the opportunity to work with these huge clients. And so it was a startup. I was one of their first producers that they had brought on board, and I was in a boys club from then on. Like there was not a lot of women, and advertising still is, I feel like, very male dominant. That industry has changed a lot in the past 20 years, but it's very Mad Men-esque. It's hustle culture, and it's whoever's there the longest wins the prize. And so it was long hours, tons of travel. I learned so much, both from our development team and the designers, and an appreciation for brand and creative and what that means. And I do not pride myself or prove myself to be a creative necessarily, not in design, but maybe in vision. I guess I understand it, and I understand the journey and how important it is. And so, but that's what I spent the first 7 of my careers in, digital advertising. So I managed large and small scale digital projects for the most part, managed a team of developers and designers from concept to ideation and execution for those projects. And so we had coast to coast clients, and I got pregnant with my first child back in 2015, I would have been. And when it came time to go on maternity leave, there were a lot of changes internally at the agency, but the biggest issue that I was struggling with was I was gone all the time. I was on airplanes. One of our biggest clients was in New York and was a tequila company, and I don't happen to drink. And I just had this like out of body experience where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm not going to be able to be home with my kids. I don't even drink. I had to like fake drink to take our clients out. Like, I was like passing my shots over to my copywriter. And I was like, I don't think this is making me happy anymore.
Mm.
And so I didn't know what I wanted to do after that, but I knew that that lifestyle wasn't going to work with being a new mom, and I was interested in doing something else. So I went on mat leave, and then after like 6 months, I took a job with a company that is really well known now, but then it wasn't. To be, I think that I want to go back and like find their job posting, because it would be so funny to see like the change and evolution that I experienced. But I think they were asking for a website director. And I am not a developer, like I said, but I understand that world. And so I saw the job listing, and from reading the job listing, I knew that they did not even know what they needed. So I kind of reached out and said, hey, I think this might be what you need, and I think I can do it. And I was employee number 1 of venture. I did customer service and everything from a desk like this by myself. And then 4 years later, it was a $70 million business, and a Netflix show and a Target line. And I was burnt out
Mm.
again, right? I was experiencing, I had my second child at that point, and I was experiencing mental and physical burnout. Long hours, tons of stress, a scaling startup environment with not a lot of support. And I felt like I was at a crossroads with it again. And so I made the hard decision to leave, and that was January 2020.
A couple months ago on the podcast, we talked about rhythms of leaders
Yeah.
and the reality that this happens, right? We either have, someone said, I don't know if I necessarily I've experienced burnout, but I have I have my like continuous meltdowns. And I was like, well, that's kind of like, a
Yeah.
little bit like
That
burnout.
we'll qualify that.
Yeah, we'll qualify that as like micro burnouts. Like,
Yeah.
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 And so when you stepped out of that, I would love to talk about what that looked like to recenter and ground and
Yeah.
some of those practices you had to go through. Cause I think what I don't want of this podcast is we're not about the hustle culture. And
No.
so when
Yeah.
we talk about entrepreneurship, like there's other podcasts that you can go get that from, and
Yeah.
you can have that conversation of, oh, you have to do this, this, and this. But it always starts with self. And if you're not caring for
Mhm.
yourself and making sure you're in a healthy spot, like then what's it worth? Like,
Yeah.
and we need to start asking that question more. So when you stepped out of that, what were some of those questions you asked yourself, some grounding you did to get yourself in a space where you were healing?
Every time I do this story, I'm like, it takes me back. I start to
Yeah.
feel all the things. So if I start crying, I'm sorry. Um, I really just didn't, I don't think I had realized how long I didn't know who I was anymore. Who I was outside of this role that I had created, that
Mhm.
I had earned, that I had worked for. And you don't realize that you lose it, right? Your center, your
Mhm.
why. And so I quit without a plan, which I don't necessarily recommend, but it's worked fine. So maybe do it. I don't know. But I quit without a plan. And then I was really questioning myself. Like
Mm.
I just left this massive scaling startup that's not a startup anymore. It's extremely successful. Any talks, no matter what they had originated as or were when I left, like any talks of equity or, ownership or whatever, stock options, like were not going to be a thing. They weren't existing when I left, but I knew what I was walking away from and I didn't care. I realized the only thing that mattered at that point was I was not a happy employee. I was not a happy mom. And that's all I cared about anymore is that whatever this is after this, I need to find my why. And so I left without a plan. And I did. I created a lot of questions for myself about where does my worth come from? Because it's not in a title, it's not in a role, it's not how many people report to me, it's not, and none of that was ever going to make me happy. So it was a risk, right? Like both financially and otherwise to kind of put yourself in that vulnerable position and be like, well, what am I worth? So I left and I spent some time consulting other e-commerce businesses here in the Utah Valley, which is where I'm based. And um, in that time, I was gleaning, right, a lot of information from these other businesses, what they were struggling with, both as people and as business owners. And I was trying to take care of myself for the first time in a long time. I was going for walks. I was drinking water again. I was like trying to reduce my caffeine intake, get my sleep patterns better. Just back to the basics, like really
Yeah.
just ground zero. And in that time, I started, looking at alternative methods of mental health support and supplements, right? I have never like fancied myself an athlete. And so a lot of the brands focused on before and after transformations or protein and creatine and like bulk gain or like I didn't get it, right? And I know you come from the CrossFit world, so you know the brands that I'm talking about, like
Yeah.
it felt still hustle culture, right?
Yeah.
Like in its own way, but just the hustle part. And I was like, I want the benefit of these adaptogens and ashwagandha and all this stuff that I had started to try to use and implement for my mental health accessible for people and presented in a way that felt very normal and very maybe mainstream, if you will, like very approachable.
Mhm.
And so I started thinking about the opportunity to try to present supplements in that way for people who may not know where they fit in their health and wellness journey. So that's kind of, and so I own a supplement business. It's called Rookie. And the name Rookie came out of that very vulnerable place of who am I? What am I doing? And then I came to the conclusion that it really didn't matter. the rookie
Mhm.
aspect was both starting over, not only in my career and my personal aspirations, but in my health journey as well. I was mid 30s, right? Like, and I had stepped aside from my career and stepped aside from everything that I thought that I knew about health and wellness or caffeine or like, bad habits, and was just starting over. And it felt really good. It felt really good to just be like, I don't have to be that person anymore. And no matter what that was or what I want to be, like, being a rookie is like a fresh place to start. And so that's where the name came from, is just kind of that reinvention and rebirth. But like, that's what life is a constant learning phase. And so really, instead of running from being a rookie, leaning into that and embracing it and being excited about the opportunity to continue to learn.
So good.
So
First of all, your branding is awesome because it is
thank
so
you.
simple. And I think that was the first thing that I was like taken aback from. So Roxanne and I both went on a trip together and we all kind of like sent each other gifts from our brands and stuff. So when I got it in the mail, I was like, well, and first of all, this is right. I was coming from Kenya. So I didn't really like get my stuff till after all
Oh
of you
yeah,
guys got your
yeah.
stuff. So it was shipped to someone else, and then it got like someone was coming to Kenya before I was meeting you guys in Morocco and all these different things. So I remember receiving it and I was at like a conference and I was just so pumped. I think I sent a picture to you and I was like, I got it. And it just comes in like beautiful packaging and it's really simple. I want to talk about like this year and just what's going on with Rookie and different things just
Yeah.
personally for you. But I do want to talk about the different products that you offer because and how it's so simple because I use all of them now. And so
Thank you.
yes, I am a Rookie fan and I love to bring people onto the show that I'm like actually obviously using their product and
I
using their
love that.
services or whatever it is. So yeah, tell people about that because I think the first time I used sleep was actually on our trip
Yeah.
and it was just I think the first time I used most of them was
Yeah.
actually on the trip, and it was just even the way that my body reacted to it and it felt was so good.
Yeah.
And I will say I love, sorry guys, she's going to get into this, but I just giving my testimony here. I love Wake too because I'll start my day with a cup of coffee in
Yeah.
the morning, love to start that way. But then in the afternoon, I don't necessarily have my afternoon lulls anymore because around like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. is when I'll like take a wake and a well. And I just feel it just is a great rhythm, like a
Yeah.
rhythm that I love having in my life. So, right now I'm on the road, but before I head back to Kenya, you're going to get one of those really large orders from me again. So I can take all the stuff back. But,
Oh,
it's so, so good. So yeah, share with everyone a little bit about the simplicity of also the offerings. Cause
yeah.
yeah,
I Rookie was meant to be, whatever your entry point with a product was, is it's meant to just be very simple, and we are trying to check as many boxes for you as we can in simple to apply and simple to understand supplements. So traditionally, a lot of supplement companies offer very finite specific offerings. So you have to buy your tub of ashwagandha and you're taking your B vitamins, and then you'll take your magnesium sup later. And it requires a pill box the size of, you've seen them, or like a 7-step smoothie. And like, it's just a lot. It's a lot. And if you are not familiar with supplements, that's the hurdle, right?
right.
To start using, or like, it's difficult to understand what type of magnesium do I need. And I'm not sleeping well, but like, there's 7 types of magnesium that I've heard of, and I don't even know which one will work. And does it taste good?
Mhm.
And should I get it in capsule form, or I've seen it in liquids? And do I need B vitamins, and which B vitamin would be best? And it's overwhelming. And so what I wanted to do was approach that problem and say, hey, here are really simple solutions that cover a lot of these areas for you. And so the one that you mentioned, Wake, was again someone who's coming off of, especially the advertising side, like black coffee into Diet Coke, into Red Bull afternoons, into and then you're like, why am I not sleeping? Um, but I wanted something that supported your natural energy cycle without the itchiness, without the crash, without the like heart attack about to happen, and also supported cognitive and mental health. So we use the adaptogens. You can use, people are like, oh, but I heard ashwagandha is good for sleep. Well, it is, but you implement it during the day and then it helps you build melatonin properly. And so ashwagandha has this like mental clarity, hormone supporting, reduced cortisol effect, which is so nice, especially paired with the caffeine. And then you have the guarana and it's and your B vitamins all in one. So a really simple stick pack that tastes amazing, that's easy to take with you wherever you are and throw in your water bottle, like you said, have it at work. And you also get all these really nice mental health support with it. And so I think that that's how we approached all of our product, is just like that really nice, like, okay, this is so easy to understand and easy to use. And you said you paired it with Well, which is your 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and ginger, and it tastes amazing. And you have, all the antioxidant benefits and without all of the additives. And you're like, this is how supplements should feel, right? Like,
And it tastes
and it
amazing.
tastes so
We're
good.
gonna keep pushing that.
Thank
It
you
tastes
so
amazing.
much. Yeah. So yeah, and then the sleep one you hit on is the same thing, right? Like everybody knows how to take melatonin. People have hit that hard for years now, and it's such a misunderstood hormone. Or I think probably the vast majority of people would maybe not even understand that it is a hormone. And so when you're affecting your hormones, you're going to have adverse effects. And so while melatonin, there's nothing wrong with melatonin, it's how people are using it, which is the problem. And so again, like blending it with the magnesium, the type that's meant specifically for sleep, and these really nice relaxing herbs, and keeping everything really natural, supports your natural circadian rhythm and builds good sleep habits. So again, just, but yet the name is just sleep. So that's how you take it. That's what it's used for. And so that was kind of the entry point for me and Rookie, is I wanted just a really easy to understand routine that felt like we were offering a lot of benefit for minimal product.
I think it's crazy when you look at someone's journey, because I'm like, you're just talking about all of these different ingredients. And then I'm
I
like, and
know.
then 15 years ago, like, if you were to talk to yourself 15 years ago, like, what do you
No.
think she would say to
Yeah.
you?
No, we don't know her. We don't know
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's a beautiful like story of just like as a human, like there can be so many different versions of ourselves and chapters in our
Yeah.
lives. And it's okay to reinvent and to be innovative with yourself and what you want to discover and be curious about.
Yeah.
And I love how it just came from the simple fact of like finding solutions for you. And then
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, let everyone else needs to know this. Like this is so good. So
Yeah, it just felt like there was such a big chasm between like the CrossFit heavy active nutrition space and then the very sort of, organic, hippy dippy,
yeah.
like very, which is also not me. Like I'm a regular mom that drinks Diet Coke. Like, I don't know. I'm just
And
a
I feel
regular
like
person.
I feel like I go from the scope of hippie to all the way, like all the way
Yeah.
CrossFit. That's funny. So I think Rookie, like it balances me because it's like, yeah, I have
Yeah.
these two extremes and it's like,
It's,
ah, it's here.
yeah.
It's
It's
easy.
just,
It's
it's
simple.
supposed to feel like grounding, like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really easy.
Yeah. No, that's so good. Okay. So tell, there's been, I feel like obviously in a journey, as well. And, still being in is this your third year? Fourth, third year?
We're going into our third year. So just over
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, awesome. So I feel like in the first 3 to 5 years is always like still like, whew, we're still getting there. But I know you guys have been doing awesome stuff and amazing partnerships, and it's been really cool to cheer you on from across the world and see all that's happening. I would love for you to share with anyone and everyone, one, where they can find Rookie, of course, but then two, some things that you're celebrating and excited for this year.
Yeah. So you can always find us online, rookiewellness.com. We're also available to shop right now with Free People, Anthropology, Terrain, Vitamin Shop, and Amazon. And we're also launching in our first nationwide grocery chain in the next 4 months. So we are very excited about that. And yeah, just that's where you can find us.
So good. So good. I'm just like, I'm bubbling because I'm so excited for you.
I'm
That's
so excited.
awesome. Yeah, I think it's really fun when I'm all about collaboration and just seeing people win and being able to celebrate their big wins is a really
I have
cool
always
thing to
felt
be in.
that from you. I love that
Yeah.
about you.
I love, yeah. And
Best.
so I love you. I love everything you're doing. Guys, seriously, look at the show notes to go check out Rookie Wellness. Buy from their website if you can, just as a small business owner. It's always great if you buy it
You
directly from
know,
our
if you know, you
website.
know. Yeah.
If you know, you know. But if you want to buy from Amazon or whatnot,
It all helps.
yeah,
Yeah.
it all helps. But go to the website too. There's amazing apparel as well. I wish I had it on me. I just put it in the sink. I could have promoted the blender bottle and all the things.
Oh,
It's a thing.
this is what
Oh,
the packaging looks
look.
like. Yeah, so simple, so easy to understand. These are our 15 packets. So it's a good, entry point to see if you like something.
That's good. Okay, so this is going to kind of be like the one last thing to live by if you want it to be. We can do a completely one last thing to live by, but I would love for you to share for those who are starting out, especially new entrepreneurs, like any advice you might have for them. Because the one thing that I want to continue to advocate for is that it is against the hustle. And even though I think we think everything has to be urgent, everything has to be right now. And the reality is it doesn't. Like it's going to get figured out. And there's a time and a place, and we need to truly trust the process. And the more we can sleep, the more we can fill ourselves with good things in our body and really keep aligned, like it's going to be better as a whole for everybody. So would love to, yeah, hear any advice that you might have for some young
For
entrepreneurs who may be
entrepreneurs,
listening. Yeah.
yeah. I think my number one piece of advice is to hold your why close. To hold your why close because it will be questioned. It will be you will begin to doubt it. Other people will doubt it. No one will see your vision the way that you do. But that also is your superpower, right? So I think that knowing your why, understanding your why, feeling strongly about your why, and then holding it close and sticking to it, is your point of view that you bring is the only superpower that you have to offer, but it's a really, really good one. That's the one that's not replaceable, and people will come for your branding, and people will come for your product, and people will come, and you've experienced this too, right? Like every entrepreneur has rip-offs, whether they be product-based or branding-based or whatever, product rip-offs. And so, but what they cannot take from you is your why. And that's what people will resonate with, and that's what people will gravitate towards, and that's what people will sniff out first, is if it's not there. So yeah, I think having your why and holding it close and sticking to it and believing in yourself more than anybody else believes in you is what entrepreneurship calls for. And I think that that's the vulnerable place about it, is that it's really easy to put your name on someone else's work. And that's what I did my whole career, is I believed in someone else's vision, sometimes more than they did. And it was really easy to hide behind that, right? Like, especially as it became successful, and be like, we did this. It's really scary to do it for yourself.
Right.
But it also is going to be the thing that keeps you going. It's going to be the thing that makes it the most rewarding journey possible.
Right. Thanks, Roxanne. We're going to
Yeah,
make that your
thank
one
you.
last thing to live by, because so
Awesome.
good. Such great advice.
Thank you so
It's
much.
such a joy to have you on the Moxie podcast and be a part of this community. So thank you for taking the time and just sharing your story and being
Thank
vulnerable
you.
with us today.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. I knew I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. So, as always, Moxie community, thank you for being here, being a part of the dialogue and the conversation. Go buy some Rookie on her website. I'm like, do that. And then we'll see you next week. And as always, Moxie on.